So we're hopeful that funding will help us to be just that much more prepared for the likelihood that it's going to happen.
Okay.
Well, some of the other areas. Oh, go ahead.
I wondered, you know how Emory Telecom was willing to help us with families who needed internet? Did we ever talk again with them and find out how many households they helped or households needed it?
I was told 400.
Oh, holy cow.
But I don't know that that's
Wow.
really official, but that's the number that was
That's a holy cow.
told to me as far as the number that since this started that they've put in people's homes. Now, I don't know if all of those were free, but that's the number that all of a sudden they had to put 400 new connections in or whatever. So.
Wow.
Well, and that's another thing I've heard is some people saying it's slow. The internet's slow because of probably so many more people
So
on
much
it.
usage.
With my meetings that I have with the state, there's a lot of people join those meetings, and their rule is that you have to have your video and audio off, or else the connection's too slow. So yeah, they don't allow people to use their video in those meetings. We haven't had to do that yet here, though. The internet's been pretty good. So some of the other things that I just thought I'd highlight is, let's see, there's, purchase supplies to sanitize and clean, preparedness efforts. We have coordinating during long-term closures, especially how to implement special education, the IEP goals. That's one of the huge challenges that we ran into, is many of the services that we provide to the students are very difficult to do virtually. However, they've been pretty ingenious of how to try and meet the needs of students. But we have quite a number of students who are going to need to come back during the summer for compensatory services because they didn't receive everything that they should have received during this quarter. This money is going to help us to be able to pay for those services to happen during the summer. So we're excited about that. Mental health services. We don't know what the funding is going to be like. We're paying for those out of TSSA. And if that funding takes a hit, this might help us to get by through the year. Some of this money contributed to that area. So we're anxiously awaiting the legislature's decisions about what's going to be cut. But we know there's going to be deep cuts in the funding. So I guess we're just waiting to see exactly what that is.
The meals have been wonderful. Neighborhoods, even now, neighborhoods, boy, there are parents waiting with their children, and that has been a godsend.
And I've seen it, they're not using it out where I'm at. The bus
they're
stops, no
Is
one
it
comes.
too far, Lee?
I don't think so. The bus comes right there and waits at each stop, but no one ever comes out. And I followed it the other day and not one single person on the whole Creek Road.
At about 3 weeks ago, before spring break, lunches were right about 2,400.
Yeah, they were in the beginning.
And now it is down about 1,900. But it's still.
That's when I was out delivering signs, I got stuck behind those buses.
It all depends on the area.
And that's what I'm thinking. It's just our area is
Kids all
not.
over.
In the beginning, they were right on it. As soon as the bus was there, you saw kids. But the other day, I followed it twice now and not one single stop. But as kids coming out on. I followed it all the way through.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that was
In
happening.
fact, I was putting one sign on one teacher's lawn and was out with their kid, and I wanted to talk to them, and they didn't want nothing to do with me because they had to chase the bus down. It was stopping right down there.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they're using it.
For a while there, we were feeding almost 1,000 more meals at lunch than what we would normally
Yeah.
do during the school year. So that was pretty
Hard to do.
amazing.
I think as time's going on, the kids are sleeping in, so maybe if they went 10 and 2, then they would hit the ideal time.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, well, are there any other questions or comments about that? We're still in the process of, listening to the state on their guidance and things with this as well. So pretty early stages with the money. I don't know when it's going to arrive or anything like that. We haven't heard.
So on your attachment,
Yeah,
if you scroll down, there's an attachment.
so you got the two different sides there.
Right, is one just local and one state? Is that what that means?
Yes,
I have
this
no
is
idea what
the-
the ESSER and GEAR are.
I don't really know either. I just know this is the pot that comes to LEAs, that 90% of this. This is what goes to the governor. So the governor and his team decide how that's going to be used, but it's supposed to be applicable to K-16. We're assuming that a large portion of that will be dedicated to higher ed.
Higher
Uh,
Can I interrupt? Sid Dixon on Saturday in a meeting I was in said that higher ed has agreed to not use that money from the governor, so it would be K-12.
Oh, okay, great. We just don't
We're,
know.
we're going to send you to more meetings.
Well, and those numbers aren't 10%. I mean, that looks like that's, $100 million and.
No, this isn't 10% of this. They're saying that this is a whole separate pot of money, and 10% of this is what the USBE, USBE has to use for their administrative costs and programs that they want to run. And I don't know what their plans are, and I don't know what the governor's plans are at this point.
It's hard for us to know what our plans are.
Yeah.
What do you think school will start? When do you anticipate the start of school?
Everything that I'm hearing indicates that we'll have a normal start to the school year with the data that they're predicting, but you just never know. But we're hoping that we start normal with the anticipation that a second wave may hit in late fall or whatever. That's kind of the talk that's going around, but I guess we just have to wait and see. Are you hearing anything, Wayne?
No, they won't stick their neck out that far. Melanie, are you hearing anything different?
Yeah, we don't plan to lift our restrictions probably till next year, so I'm sure that it's going to be, we're going to have another wave. That's the word.
And we're hearing that the warm weather helps, so probably buckle up when the weather starts getting cooler. No. We ready
That's
to?
neat. We got some money though. So that's a good thing. I was thinking, I didn't really see it as a problem when we started this discussion, but there's a lot of teachers that probably would appreciate help. One person might be tough, but maybe could the tech,
I think your tech people will continue to do what they've been
what they're
doing.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe
But
there's a way to use them
Sometimes
more
I
than
know
this.
if somebody's got a problem, they call the tech department. Well, there's 3 people in line in front of them.
Yeah.
So
I
this
mean,
will
the
just give you
tech
another
cafe
full-time
people.
body.
The tech cafe
The
people,
tech
the tech
cafe.
people are pretty much hardware.
Yeah, but the
Oriented,
tech
aren't they,
cafe,
on
I
tech
wonder if
department?
they
Well,
could,
the tech cafe have really struggled, honestly, because now we have 2 of those people are principals. And the idea that they're going to somehow free themselves up and go help teachers with anything significant has been really problematic. So we are disbanding Tech Cafe. We're using that money for this. So basically we're saying we think that we will get much better service by somebody who's available when the teachers need them and not at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody wants to be done. So that's really part of the funding for that position is coming from that. It's kind of taking the place of.
That
Now,
makes
we
sense.
see that person teaming up with others that, have the innovative ideas and the ability to do things. We see that person providing professional development virtually, so teachers don't need to leave their schools. We think there's a lot that can be done to reach out to the teachers.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, I'll preface this one with, these are drafts of policy negotiated under the negotiated agreement that we have sent to the CCEA. They're looking at them, and when we have our meeting next Friday, the pre-negotiation meeting, they're going to give us some feedback on these, and that's where we're going to discuss. So these are nowhere near final, but these have the changes that district administration is recommending. So if it's all right, we'll just go through each one, kind of explain what those are.
Yeah, let's move through them. We've got some.
I'd like to also mention, we don't have anything for closed session unless
We
you
do,
guys.
yeah, we do.
You, okay.
You said the meeting was Friday, though, can
Friday, the 22nd,
oh, you did send me that,
Mhm.
okay.
and we'll start at 8 o'clock. All right, this one is non-traditional employment. It did focus on this idea of job sharing. 2 certified educators in the same subject areas. We felt like there was some problems with the way this is set up. We feel like it's really just part-time employment. We shouldn't have to require a person to go and find their own partner. There's some aspects of the job share, that it's really, I don't know, when you really look at it, it's a teacher who's working in a part-time position. So we're proposing that the district may have reason to divide a full-time position into 2 part-time positions. If we do that, the part-time educator should be subject to all of the policies and procedures that we have in place. That part-time educator should receive 5 annual days instead of the full 10, and that's what's listed down here. And then a part-time educator may receive insurance coverage proportionate to their FTE. That's also down in the job share as well. So part-time educators are not eligible for the waiver of insurance benefit, and that's also down below. So we've tried to take out anything that's confusing or any. Go ahead.
One thing I thought was being removed was at the end of number 3, you read 0.5 health coverage, that's described in 4. And it's not 0.5, it's proportionate to their FTE, or what is the health coverage referred to?
Oh, that's right. So that part was supposed to be removed as well.
Yeah. 4 covers that.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll make that adjustment.
Didn't we kind of get away from this at one time?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Saying that it
we've now
wasn't
come full
working
circle.
well. Yeah, this was taken out. 'Cause-
We used to have this, and it was a hassle for the district, and so we said, no, you guys go find your own partner to split this time up with, and then bring it back to the administration, and then, anyway, so now it's come full circle back
Well,
again.
and then we said money-wise, there was some money stuff involved in it too, that,
Yeah, so this policy has been on the books before I started here. And so it was always here. What we did is it used to grant them, you'd have 2 part-time people and they both used to get full health insurance and retirement benefits.
okay, that was.
And so we removed that years ago. And then the rest of the policy is just sat unchanged from that time forward.
So we think the main difference is this is initiated by the district. The district says we have a need to split a full-time position into two. And the other way, it was the educator had all of the control over the situation by saying, I want to go halftime, and if I find somebody who can do it, you have to let me. We think that's not the best way to handle it. So we do see a scenario where we would want to divide a full-time position into two. At the secondary level, sometimes that's the most advantageous thing we could do, especially if we have the right people that we know want to do that. So we do see reasons to do it, but we think it should be the district who initiates the need for that, not the educator.
So what does it do for a teacher that goes part-time with their health, or not their health benefit, but their retirement benefit?
The retirement systems, of course, legislatively determines who qualifies and under what conditions they qualify. A part-time, a half-time or greater teaching contract does qualify for retirement benefits. If you're under that half-time, they don't.
Okay.
Do they qualify then for a full year of credit? So then the district pays their portion at a full rate.
Well, the district pays,
It's like 17 or
you pay the full
19%.
rate of their earnings that they have. So if somebody, say it's 22% that you pay, you're paying 22% of a half-time salary.
But they still get a whole year's worth of credit.
I know we talked about this.
And that's with not just teachers, any retirement, from UDOT or, any state agency. If you work over 20 hours a week for an hourly employee, and receive benefits such as sick leave, you're eligible for retirement. You can work your career at part-time, getting full retirement benefits, get to the end of your career and retire with a pension that is based on your highest several years of earnings. And so if someone did that for 27 years and then went full-time the last 3 years, that a law allows for that.
Robert, I just got a text that the YouTube live feed might not be quite working. I wondered if you'd be willing to contact Tyson. Thank you.
So under this policy, is this only if the district wants it, or is this allows the employee to apply for it as well?
I think it allows the employee to request it, but at that point, it's the district that says, yeah, we want to do that. And if we do, we're just creating 2 part-time positions.
But then they are finding someone that wants to do part-time with them.
No, I don't see it that way. I just see us as saying, you know what, we think it is valuable for this to be split. We want you to stay in that halftime position. We'll find somebody.
We'll advertise.
We'll advertise, and we'll get the person who we want in that.
So devil's advocate time then.
Yeah.
Lee is highly qualified. You guys really like how she teaches. And so you're willing to go halftime with her. Me, you don't like quite so much. I don't teach maybe so well. I make the same requests and I don't get it. How do you justify yes versus no?
Well, that is a good question. In our minds, an elementary position is really, really hard. I don't know how you can really say that that's a good thing for kids. The secondary level, we don't see that as being that much of an imposition. There are people who would work halftime, and you can have these kids and they don't know any different that you're teaching other kids or not.
So are you going to consider this for elementary?
I don't know of a scenario that would make sense.
Because we've had it in the past and that was our problem.
I know.
I do have hesitancy with agreeing to this to elementary.
So do I. I don't see us doing it, but I don't want to say there wouldn't be a potential scenario, especially if it's temporary, somebody has cancer, needs some type of accommodation We don't
Can
want to just.
Can I give a
think-
scenario?
Is that Stacy?
Yeah. So here's a scenario of it. It worked in my school and it actually worked really well. And that was because we do run more of a middle school model in our 4th and 5th grade. I had 2 5th grade teachers, each were teaching half of the day. That was because one teacher was teaching one class, language arts, half the day. The other half of the day, the second class was coming in. So they were teaching 2 different groups. It wasn't like they were getting part teacher for one subject and part teacher for another subject. So it was based off of that middle school model. That's a scenario that I see could work. It doesn't work in every elementary classroom, but I think there are going to be the possibility of situations that I would say I wouldn't eliminate elementary completely, but I think it's going to be unique to the situation.
Which then goes back to my question, how do you split that gray hair?
I think you just have to have justification for why you would do it for one and not another.
So at
We do
what
that all the
level is
time
that
anyway.
decisions can be made by you or principals?
No, I think this is a district decision. That's what, we
Okay.
put this, the district may have reason to cut the school.
You know, I was a part-time teacher once. They were going to cut a half a staff member. And I was really getting to the time in my career when, it would be nice to teach just half-time. And I did that and it worked fine because I taught my same classes every day. I was a full-time teacher to those kids. But they didn't,
That's
but I
what-
only taught.
That's just where the
half a day.
That's what
difference is.
Matt
And
said.
that worked really well, I
that's-
think, for me and for the district.
Sure, but that was a secondary
But
situation.
there are
not an
2
elementary.
teachers that were, I'm
I was
pretty
in
sure they were in
elementary.
Wellington. One
I
was
lost
Jennifer
you.
Black
Mm-hmm.
and somebody else, and they've been a team forever, haven't they?
No, they're
Not
both
anymore,
teaching
but they were
full-time.
for a while.
They
They
were,
were, but they're
yeah,
teaching full-time.
but it can.
But if you've
work.
lived in it as a kid, it's not that fun.
Yeah, I don't know.
On the elementary side.
Yeah, on the elementary,
Yeah.
it was tough. It was tough.
If the teachers are probably really a lot alike, and the kids don't, like if they're really different in disciplinary techniques or whatever, I can see how that would be a disaster.
Well, it has to come back to making a hard decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think we need to be careful.
I think the superintendent hit it on the head. If a position like that opens up, you open it up, you interview, and you hire.
Yeah, but if they come in and ask for it, you're in the
Yeah,
same.
Jeff's question was on the backside of that.
Yeah, if it's
I
teacher
just think we need to
initiated,
be
is what you're
cautious.
saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. We need to, we just don't want to pigeonhole ourselves if a scenario were to come up that we just can't anticipate right now.
Well, we had that situation come up last December,
Mhm.
and
We decided not to do it.
there's some hurt feelings because the answer was no, and so the 20-year veteran was unvalued in their mind. And the reason that we gave was we didn't think it was best for students.
Mhm.
That's pretty vague.
Yeah.
It's just a lot easier when you can say, no, it doesn't meet this,
It
or it
doesn't,
doesn't
yeah.
meet that. And, so just trying to avoid those kinds of things in the future.
Yeah, I still don't like it. but-
Partly, the reason for the change here is because we passed this policy that said teachers come up with proposals, bring it to the district. This doesn't talk about,
But that
But they
isn't
said
what we
it-
did
it's
last time.
possible.
so the first line is that the district would divide the position.
But-
We would post the position, doesn't talk about putting out invitations to apply for.
Okay.
But this person did ask.
But yeah.
And I asked at the beginning of this conversation, does this mean a teacher can make this request?
We said yes.
And they said, yeah, the answer was yes.
And we.
If the answer is no, then the answer is no. This is the district's policy, not the teacher's policy.
Right, the policy as it's proposed doesn't lay out a format for, at least I don't see it in the wording here that says, on March 13th of each year, we're gonna ask for proposals.
No,
Where
no,
the
no.
old one did. And so I think we're in agreement with you. We're moving away from the teachers driving the decision on whether there should be a split of position and moving towards the district determining what they're gonna advertise for.
Well, but I think you're still saying in the middle of the year, if somebody comes in or at the first of the year requests that,
Right, people are gonna ask.
we're gonna have it, and we've said no, and now we're changing policy and saying yes.
Explain that again.
Well, didn't we say no last time?
Well,
But
I don't know what you're talking about because this policy isn't in place.
But it was,
Yeah,
it was
the job share
basically that
policy.
you just said that if somebody came in, if there was a circumstance, you would hate to see lose someone that came in and requested a part-time position.
I said there might be a reason for us to,
Okay, but that was probably the same reason the other one thought was a legitimate reason to ask for a part-time position.
I guess what it comes down to is this a policy that allows the district to develop half-time positions?
That's what I'm saying, that.
Or is it a position, or is it a policy that allows either an educator or the district to request half-time position?
I think we need to say it.
Yeah, do you see a reference in that policy to?
No,
No,
but I
but I
asked the
think we need
question
to.
and the
We need
answer
to
was an educator could request it.
Yes.
but here's the thing.
If they can't, they can't.
If
We
an
just don't need to know
educator
that.
came forward and said, I have this situation, that in a sense is a request, right? They're saying, I have this situation. Now it's the district has to decide, do we want to create a halftime position? And I don't know. I mean, to say, oh no, you can't, please stop talking. We're not going to listen to your concern. I don't think that makes any sense. We just, when they have a concern, there's an issue, like the scenario I'm throwing out, if somebody has cancer and needs to do treatment and they're just not feeling up to doing the full day, they would probably say something to us and we would say, let's have a conversation. And now we have to decide, do we want to open up a half-time position?
I just think those are two different things though, because you would get that through FMLA anyway, wouldn't you? Someone was sick and needed time, you'd have to.
But this
fill
is
that
somebody who's
position.
saying, I don't want to work full-time. I want to work half-time. I think I can do half-time.
But I hear
But you would
what
get
the
to do
board's
it.
saying is you want to move away from the teachers creating these situations, and the wording of the policy has been changed to do that.
Well, I don't
I
want
don't think it
to, I don't
does.
want to get into a violation of when we ought to be in closed meeting, but the situation last December was a request by an educator because of health for halftime position.
I don't know that I received anything because of health. The only one that I know of is one who opened up a business, a local business.
Right, and that's was their justification, so they didn't have to spill the rest of it out there. So anyway, all I'm saying is, to me, there's a very fine line in this, where we're going from black to white, through all different shades of gray, and I fear that we're putting the district into a position where we're gonna say yes here and no here, and the people involved are not gonna see a difference.
So what's the solution to that?
Again, I go back to one of my earlier questions is this for the district to decide or for an employee to apply?
I think that's what it needs to state. This
Right.
will be only, because you're saying it's
The district
may
have
divide,
reason to divide.
but it doesn't say that they still cannot request it.
Now, they can bring a situation to the attention of their building administrator, and that goes up to then district office.
That's what we're,
And then we can say, oh yeah, that makes sense, but
there's no formal process for applying for a split position. That's been removed from this policy.
Right, but I'm not sure it just isn't clear to me
Like that
in
word.
saying that.
So if we were strengthened the wording to say the district may have reason to divide one full-time position and then put maybe a number 2 would be educators, do not apply for, or I don't know, some language around that, but if this happens, it'll be a district decision and not on an
I don't think
application
there's
basis.
any way with this that there can become the creation of an application to divide their teaching responsibilities.
Right.
There's not in this.
I agree.
The only thing I could say in this was the comment you made that they could request.
Well, but that's that informal.
That's
coming to
all
the
I was talking
principal
about is
and,
the informal thing that Jeff
Yeah,
just mentioned.
no formal request. This does not grant informal request avenue.
It removes the
existing
existing formal
formal
request
request
avenue that's in the policy
Yeah.
now.
So there is no formal request avenue.
Okay, so
That's
then it-
exactly what we're trying to address, is that in the
Yeah.
job share policy, if you apply by this date, you're applying for it and it happens. So,
I was trying to get real about this. Like, let's say a real person comes to us, a great teacher, and says, well, let's say we have a teacher shortage, and this person really was thinking of retiring, and you can't find another teacher, and she says, well, I'd be willing to teach half time. And I'd be willing to teach those 4 AP classes. Are we gonna say no? I mean,
I think that's a great example. I think that's
perfect example.
Yeah, that's the time that is.
I think we just have to, and yet I see what
Right,
he's
but
saying.
there isn't any formal request avenue.
But it's
for
hard,
that.
where are you gonna make,
That's
how
what
are
I'm
you gonna
saying.
decide
You
when
have to
it's
say you're
okay and when
opening
it's
it up or you're not.
I guess
Is my
because I can
decision.
sometimes, especially in a district like ours, where it's hard to find certain types of teachers, where if somebody came and said, I'm really at retirement age and I don't want that whole day thing, but I'd come in the mornings and teach 3 classes for you.
So what I keep hearing, though, the discussion about it is, it's gonna work for secondary, but not elementary.
Oh, I see, and I don't know. I guess I'm thinking like a secondary person. I don't know if it'd work in elementary, but I can see that could be a solution. And I don't know. Sorry.
And those are the things I think administration does with now, is trying to fill positions and considering how to do it. They have to determine if they have people available and how those positions are going to be arranged. But we're not requesting proposals from outside to say, I would like this arrangement and submit it by this date. So
No, it's
I
not
think
date
we're-
thing, but you're saying that you're still open to that if someone did.
Well, how else would we know what the concerns are if they don't informally say, I have an issue? I mean, that's the only way we would ever know that there might be a need for us to do something.
Not using her example. We saw a need that we have these AP classes that need to be taught. We have a teacher who's retiring. Hey, would you like to come back for half a day? We do it right now at the high school.
Well, would you come back? That's I thought you were saying this person was going from full-time to part-time.
Well, they said
Well,
they
might
didn't
be.
want to work anymore.
What
and
if
they'd be
this
willing to
teacher's
do it.
teaching and she's full-time and she really kind of is thinking of retiring, but they've tried now for 2 months, 3 months, and
See,
they can't
that's the
find a
scenario we're talking
replacement.
about. Now the district has a reason to create that part-time position. And it's us who's creating it. It's not the teacher applying for it.
I think the wording of the policy covers what you're saying, unless there's a suggestion that we add wording that says we will not consider any circumstantial.
I don't think that's,
Why
I don't
don't we
see-
ask Chelsea?
yeah, I don't see the teachers being too excited about that strong of a link,
Right.
although it may be de facto in here, but adding that on, I think sends a message to the teachers that we don't want sent.
And that's not our intent, is that if there is an issue, we hope the teachers are talking to us. We hope that they are saying, here's what I'm dealing with, so we can problem solve. And maybe one of the solutions to that problem is that we create a half-time position. And if that's the case, then we decide to do it and we move forward. But the idea that we have to do it just because somebody wants to, that doesn't seem to make good sense
And that's what we're
for kids.
removing.
Let's ask Chelsea to weigh in on it. Chelsea, what are you thinking when you hear this discussion?
I think that this language is quite strong, and I do worry that it will be seen as district only can decide about part-time employment. The way that job sharing language was written was that a proposal was written and presented to the administration, and it was accepted or declined. It wasn't necessarily accepted 100% because somebody approached an administrator and said that. So, there's some compromises that maybe need to be written in. I don't know.
So you're kind of saying if you think that teachers might feel like, hey,
We have no, we
option.
can't, yeah. I understand what Lance is saying, that the administration wouldn't want teachers to not communicate with them. But the way that this reads, the district may have a reason to divide one full-time position into 2 part-times. It's only the district that's making that call and not getting input from a teacher who may be in need of a change. It's hard to talk. It's hard to talk, and I feel like I'm in a tunnel. So
I understand. Okay, so let's see now.
You sound like you're right here on my desk in front of
Yeah.
me, so.
okay, I'm too loud. Is that what you're saying?
No, you're not in a tunnel though.
Chelsea, we've got you in a lonely room with one chair in the middle with the spotlight right on top of you, asking you these questions.
It does feel like that. But these are the conversations that we'll have on Friday. Is that these aren't perfect. Well, these are drafts, and we have to work through these drafts. So.
Okay. All righty, let's just kind of zoom through these because we have.
Okay, I'll just give you the mile high version. Some of these are super fast, so.
Yeah, the rest of them, there's not a whole lot to
I've
them.
read through all of them.
Yeah, with the leave policy, you can see that sabbatical leave, if we have this leave of absence policy, sabbatical leave seems to be unnecessary. So that's what that one is. And then assignments and transfers.
I have one thing about when you request a leave. I've had teachers approach me, and it's unfortunate, but it's a fact of life in small towns that people know sometimes when people don't perform their job duties. And some people have thought it unfair that people are allowed leaves of absence when their employment record isn't satisfactory. Does that make sense? So I don't know if you want to consider putting that in there.
Well, the board asked us to make a change this year that we made to the policy that just states, if you recall, that remember the way the policy was written, the board pretty much had a rubber stamp.
Mm.
And now it's written so that the board basically decides yes or no on that, not just a rubber stamp. So that provides us an avenue to have that conversation and for the board to make that call.
Okay. That's good.
Okay, with voluntary transfers, this transfer policy, we've found some weaknesses in a couple of different areas. One of them has to do with if somebody leaves mid-year and we replace that person with somebody else. Technically, based on this policy, that position gets thrown into the transfer pool. And that's not fair. We just hired somebody for that position. So we want to fix that. And you can read the other things as well, but I'm trying to remember anything else that's major on there. We also want to transfer. If somebody says, I want to transfer to an open position, we don't want that to be automatic. We want it to be clear that what if the principal believes that's not a good transfer for their school and the situation that they're in? We would like the principal to be incentivized to take that person, because now I don't have to interview, I don't have to advertise, I don't have to do any of that. I know I've got somebody good, I'm taking that transfer. Or they could say, I've got a problematic team, whatever, I don't think that's gonna work. I'm gonna pass on that one. We need to have that option, so these corrections take care of that. Provisional, see if I can remember. Oh, this was a
Mentor.
request from the CCEA, so that when we assign a mentor to a new teacher, that it actually follows a process of people who are interested, instead of the principal saying, you do it. It's more of a process that somebody who's interested in being a mentor can apply to do that. And so we like that. And then we have addressing district concerns. We have this
Whistleblower.
this is the whistleblower, thank you. I was trying to come up with the word, the whistleblower clause. And it's so well spelled out in state code. There's really no reason for us to have a special policy. So we just wanted to reference the code there and say we follow what the state says we have to do anyway. And then the zipper clause is
Everybody needs a zipper clause.
I know, I laughed.
we just feel like it's unnecessary.
Yeah, we're gonna use buttons, right?
Yeah.
Velcro.
So that's those.
All right. Well, sounds like you got a little work cut out for you with working through those. So. And so board, just a reminder and aware that these are really important, because if they get agreed to in a negotiated agreement, they're automatic. Well, it doesn't matter what we have in policy. This trumps it. So we need to go back and amend our policies to meet what is in the negotiated agreement. So these are setting policy.
And we actually, these are in our policy now. So we don't have to go back and make changes. If we make them in here, they are now automatically, the board still votes.
We're still going to have to go back through the process to do that, but we won't have any choice in the matter because it's been decided in a negotiated agreement. So it's really important, really important.
I think, and Kristen and Lee, you're the key people on that team, so appreciate you being willing to work with us on it.
Okay, it's time we need to move to closed meeting, specifically to discuss the character, professional competence, physical or mental health of an individual. Is there a motion to do such?
I move that we adjourn to closed session for the discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been seconded. Roll call vote. Melanie?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Wayne's aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Louder, Lee. Come on now, open that mouth. Okay, we are adjourned to executive or to closed meeting, and we'll be back in 20 minutes.
Melanie, we'll send you a different link.
Okay.
Don't know where you're gonna end up, but we'll send it to you. Right? Out of space.
Will somebody check on the YouTube streaming, please?
I thought
We sent someone to do that.
Yeah.
The YouTube, he was struggling with the sound, it kept going in and out and echoing. So he shut it off and was just recording it. But I can call him back and say, can you get it back up at 5 o'clock? So.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thank
We
you.
had YouTube live with the state yesterday, and it was doing this. I wonder if it's a YouTube because the sound was going in and out, and
Okay, I'll ask him to have it back up by 5.
Thank you, Rob.
How we doing, sir? I need to have it back up at 5 o'clock.
Even if it's not ideal, it's still something.
Wonder how come. Okay, I'm not sure that that works for the meeting. Because by law, they have to have an open meeting that people can see at the time the meeting's being held. Well, so if you did that though, and then what's the recording gonna be like? Okay, so what I would do is go ahead and put it up, and then they can go back and look at the recording. By law, the meeting has to be open so anybody can view it at the time of meetings. Maybe up and not muted, but turned down in your house, so you don't have to hear it.
Well, that was fun.
I just know,
So what do you need to
so I wonder,
ask?
I just know that it has to be up and going,
Yeah, just the process, what,
so I don't know the best way to do it, other than people.
probably just order what we did last year.
Yeah,
So I don't know the best
most
way
of
to
the
do
time I
that.
ask it up to Jeremy and Travis. There's
Well,
always-
Jeremy's
I don't
saying,
know
you know,
that
that,
muting it
We
is
don't-
gonna help either, because
Yeah.
it's not gonna be sure what's going on.
it's been approved.
Yeah, it's been approved.
But
So what you'll need to do is get the estimate, get that to Darlene, because Darlene is the one that needs to put it
Well,
in.
that's fine, then they can.
She won't do it
they can
until
on.
you've got,
Let them turn it off and let us.
because all of them are on state contract. Need to have
Hey,
that
appreciate it.
state number,
Okay, yeah, that'll be fine.
because she is
Okay.
over all
Appreciate it.
capital.
Thank you.
It's, shoot. The name just left me. No, she's over all of any. I'm getting old. Something that's worth more than $5,000. That's a trap.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that.
Darren has her tracking it. She's got some special numbers that she has to put in.
Because we'll get those going. Jeff needs another pitch on it. One of them doesn't look like it's 16.
Oh, yeah.
Get those here and because we have those, the two that are parked over there, get those on surplus. We sold all those. We sold all of them.
Good.
And only one to Mr. Employee, it was Travis, he bought the blue Lumina, the 92 Lumina, for his son. His son's starting to drive.
Yeah.
You know what, honestly, I drove that around this last year off and on, just, it has a power steering pump that's bad. I talked to the superintendent today about pulling the vehicle out of the fleet so I could use it and not have to go to Tony every day and can I have a key, can I have a key, can I have a key, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna use 90. When I got in it about a week ago, it has 190 something. That's probably the vehicle, but I don't feel comfortable sending some teachers over the hill.
Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a good vehicle,
Yes.
you know, but is that Patsy's old one? Yeah, that's kind of like, anyway, so, and then there'll be a couple more, I'm sure, this fall as we start going, and we're putting a lot more work in.
And I just relied on the mechanics to tell me this one needs to go. Because, you know, there's been a mentality in the district that you can't throw anything away. And that was, Patty fostered that. But then all of a sudden, she didn't want to deal with it.
Bill?
It runs all the time.
Well, what I was saying is that was the way that Patty had it set up, and then she changed.
I can remember.
She wanted to throw everything away. So,
Well, it's one thing to just put something like, you know, let's take a vehicle, a couple of those vehicles, they're just,
they're in bad shape.
and, okay, we're gonna park them over here. Well, let's go through the process, and it just showed that
Get on the auction block.
it was a month on the auction. I think the lowest bids we had were like 9 bids on one vehicle or more. It was 9 or more bids. On the vehicle, that service truck, that white one, I think it went for 3,600 or something like that. Anyway,
So anyway, we've got to change the mentality for a lot of people. We don't have to keep everything. We can throw
And you know
stuff that's
what?
garbage away.
and I think I've said this, there's some of those vehicles, there's a difference between me jumping in a 92 Blue Lumina to drive out to Wellington and talk to Stacy about a couple of her troublemakers than it is putting teachers in a vehicle and sending them someplace.
Right.
Or even back and forth to Rural Point, whatever that might be.
That Forerunner's gotta be almost 20 years old.
Oh, that 90, the one I was talking
I
about,
can't remember how old it was.
They bought that
the Patsy.
for Patsy.
Oh, let's see, let's go back to
Would have
7.
been- No, it probably 13 or 14 years.
Because I've been
Yeah.
in administration 13 years, this is my 13th year. And she probably had been, I've been about 15.
So the first year that Steve was here, he changed out and went to that blue driver's ed car. Steve didn't like driving. And then Steve was here 5 years after that. Lance has been here for 3 more years. Patsy was 3 years plus 1, so there's 4, 5, yeah.
So probably
you're probably right about
13, 14 years.
Probably would have been 2000. So that's a 2011,
Right.
12.
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was in a day when they didn't do any WebEx meetings. I mean, so you're always in Salt Lake, Patsy put forward.
Well, and then the decision to, which I think Jeremy and maybe you even were in on it, Jeremy and Travis, moving away from the Toyota, not that they're not good vehicles.
The problem with the Toyotas, we had several recalls.
Yeah.
And every
Yeah.
recall took us 2 days
And 2 people.
and 2 people.
Yeah. Whereas, we've already seen it with, I think the one driver's ed car where the Jake brake, the driver's ed brake, there was something wrong. We could just take it out here, it was an afternoon instead of.
Right.
So, and I know Darren supports that, his idea is the same as.
If somebody specifically wants Toyota or whatever, you know, we can look at that. There's a state contract on all different brands. But where we don't have somebody local that can do the warranty work, but it really needs.
You know what, they got that Ford
Focus.
Focus or Fusion?
Fusion.
Fusion. Well, we got it registered and we were waiting for the plates, but the state's so backlogged, it's still going to be at least another couple of weeks. So I guess Kurt was saying, well, and then they verified it, you can't put a temporary plate on it in the driver's ed. Why? Sure, somewhere.
Uh, Well, I can see it for insurance purposes,
Oh,
but,
risk management.
yeah. So down here local, you can't
No,
do it,
they had the DMV shut.
as long as it's been shut up.
At least that was last week. I haven't checked this week.
I called a social security office in Brooklyn today, it's close to, and they have people answering the phone. Can't go to the office, everything you have to do is online. I just need to get an address.
Blake,
The long wait on calls.
No, actually, it went through pretty quick. I called into the Provo office. And I was probably on hold about a minute.
Blake got into a panic. He moved, him and Brad Williams, went to, is my mental stability in question?
We're not sure.
I
Gave them all the pizza.
If you haven't muted your microphone, you probably want to. Board is still in closed meeting, so be a few more minutes.
Okay,
Okay, here we are.
still can't find me. Okay, I'll go like this. Yeah, that's all it took.
Every time you have a
But you need
different
it.
computer, you
We have Lee. Oh, I was waiting for Lee. I thought you were
Right here.
Okay.
She
All
just
right.
wasn't saying anything. It's unusual.
Well, welcome to our May 13th, 2020 general session of our Carbon School District School Board meeting. All board members are present. Yeah, loosely with Jeff.
Her name was Lee.
All board members are present, superintendent's with us, business administrators with us, several guests here. There's one here, hi Robert, but several with us are utilizing the remote part, particularly due to our current pandemic situation. So those, will you please rise and join with us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. Any public comments?
No.
Okay. Okay.
I think YouTube is working. I'll just say that.
Oh, it's happening with the video. Okay, thank you.
All right, recognition, superintendent.
Yeah, we have a few things. We'd like to start out with recognition of the school board for your amazing efforts. Well over 600 lawns to visit, and school board making it around to all those lawns. I just wanted to share. This is just what I could grab real quick. I didn't have a whole lot of time to pull this together, but I pulled together just a few of the many gestures of appreciation for that. Big thank you to the CSD board for the cool sign placed in my yard. Show appreciation for me and other district employees. I just want to thank the school board for the yard signs delivered to my home yesterday. I live in Huntington and wasn't expecting to receive a yard sign. It was a nice surprise to see it in my yard when I came home last night. And then some Facebook posts like, another one from Elaine Taylor. What a fun thing to come home to with a sign on my lawn. Chris Sweeney posted on social media pictures of his sign. Tanya Griffith also posted a picture and a wonderful message about her gratitude. And then Shelley Bird posted as well. And these are just three out of many who have posted online and in other forms shown their appreciation for the board. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We had a phone call from one of our employees to the district office that said, I just love the sign. I've never, ever thought of myself as a hero, but now I do. It was just awesome. So
They are. Their efforts denote the title. Heroic efforts make heroes.
So thank you very much. Any other comments about that?
I had people coming out of the houses and they go, what's that? Oh, they loved it. They really did. Did you have?
I thought
Yeah.
people thought it was a campaign sign.
Oh, did
What are
they?
you doing? I'm putting a sign in your yard. For what? What are you running for? Nothing. This is for your wife, or this is for you, whatever. Have them come out and read it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the ones that came out were really happy to see us. So.
Well, it's wonderful, and just the thought that we have a school board who's that supportive of all of us, we just appreciate it very much.
I did find out that I am not as great with addresses as I thought. I made 3 trips to the same street in Carbonville.
Only 3? Because Robert and I out in East Carbon.
I went to a house next door one time.
My husband finally got it on Google.
I was
and showed me a
wondering,
picture of the house.
I wonder what
This
that
is the
person
house you're
thought
looking
when I
for.
came here a half hour earlier and put one on the yard next door and I didn't put one on theirs.
That's how I was. I went into the neighborhood kind of where Chelsea lives. I went there 3 separate nights, and each night the Miloviches were out in their yard and they guided me to the right house. They thought I was crazy 2 nights in a row. But
I'm glad they were out there.
and it was actually an opportunity to promote working for the district, because other people would come out and say, well, what do I have to do to get a yard sign? And I would say, work for the district.
Be a hero.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent, Carbon High School report. Oh, other recognition.
Yeah,
You got more.
we have a couple more things there. We wanted to let the board know that our transportation department has the 2nd best rating in the state when it comes to risk loss. This is risk management saying the very best department out there is this one. Carbon is the 2nd best when it comes to that. Being careful and making sure you're doing things the right way. So that's pretty cool. And State History Fair, we have an attachment there for you to look at, but you see some of the highlights, and this was all done virtually.
This is the State History Fair.
State History Fair. So we're pretty excited for.
Well, no wonder
our
they
results.
won baseball.
Yeah. So the 4th, 5th grade division, we had state champions, and that's Cole Arthur and Curtis Allen, who did theirs on baseball in mining town.
It's a big deal.
So that's a state champion project there. Also, Leah Sweeney, Black Moses, breaking barriers by fighting for liberty and justice for all people. This YouTube video, you can click on there and watch it. It's pretty awesome. She did a great job. Then we have our honorable mention, Ava Gravy, special award, Utah History Award, Cole Arthur and Curtis Allen. So they got 2 awards, state championship and the history award. And then the junior division, that's 6th through 8th. The state champions was Bradley Sweeney, and his was on the rowing team. Historic date at Hitler's Games. So that was a pretty cool project. Also a YouTube video, very well done. Honorable mention was Alina Eisen, Ella Anderson, and Zoe Wilbur doing Candy from the Sky. That's a great project too. If you look at the high school level, we had a state champion in our very own.
Imagine
Alexis.
that. I sure miss her.
Which is in WASPs, Women Warriors of World War II. There's a lot of W's in that name. Very outstanding project. Also state champion, Pierce Briner for the individual documentary. The food production, Norman Borlaug, I don't know how to say that. And then Michaela Taggart was honorable mention along with Summer Atherley for the Shining Girls, and they did a YouTube video for that. So the highlights that I thought were really cool was Cole Arthur and Curtis Allen and Leah Sweeney are all Castle Heights students, and they are the first elementary students to ever win at state competition. Elementary students don't go to nationals. Brad Sweeney, 7th grade, is the first middle school student from Carbon ever to qualify for nationals.
Oh, geez.
All others were ninth graders in the past. So Lexi Chappelle qualified for nationals for the second time in her high school career. Pierce Briner also second time while at Carbon High. These kids are amazing and just put a lot of work into this. So just recognizing their outstanding work. They will participate in nationals, several of these kids, but they will do that virtually. So no need to travel.
What was the one on the shining, it's the radium
Radium
girls?
on the watches and
The
stuff.
watches, if you haven't read that, it's just an amazing book.
Oh, that's what, I didn't know what that was about, so, okay.
Really good.
It's a heartbreak though.
Oh, it is.
It's not a fun read.
Is that the title of it?
They used to paint, the women used to paint the numbers
It's
on
called
it,
the Radium Girls.
but they didn't know it was radioactive and they would like
With
put
these
the brush
shiny
in their
lights.
mouth to make
Yeah,
it.
the shining.
It's a
I
very
think
interesting
it's
story. It's about a class action suit too.
Right,
It's
I mean
very
the title of the book.
Oh,
Our kids are doing so well. That's so neat.
Okay,
This virtual thing kind of suits us, you know. We did the virtual Sterling Scholar, knocked it out of the park.
I know.
Virtual history fair, look at that. So,
That was awesome.
okay, and on that note, recognition, again, to recognize the school district, starting with the superintendent. Not only does it speak for himself, the quality of the daily information that you put out, the support, the wonderful thought, deep thought that sometimes my brain hurts thinking too much about what you're putting out there. And the challenges to keep moving forward, certainly appreciated that and deserving of high recognition, but reports still coming to me from throughout the state that basically they just wish carbon would go away because we're making their life miserable. Quit, you know, they're tired of hearing, can we do what carbon's doing or look what carbon's doing or what they have done and how they're doing it. So that, you know, that comes back to the heroes of our school district, but it starts with the leadership. And so we're certainly appreciative of that and want to continually recognize the unparalleled level of leadership that has stepped out from our school district on all levels. So certainly appreciate it. Okay, let's move on then to board member reports. Melanie, before I forget that you're there, board member reports, do you have anything for us today?
No, just, I think we already talked about the fun that we had doing the signs. That really was fun to do, and seeing everybody in their home and their kids would talk to you. It was fun. I appreciate all the district employees and appreciate that we had the opportunity to do that. I think it was great.
All right, Lee.
Just to echo what Melanie said about the yard signs was really fun to do that. But I did have a question, was wondering with our students, our graduating students, if we have any of those that are moving on that had, you know, that either ended up with something for their career, you know, either, you know how we did from Texas, do they have something, certificate, something that they're moving on with? Were we able to succeed with any of that this year?
yeah,
That,
we were.
you know, our goal to be, when they graduate from
They
high
have-
school, they either have an associate degree or a
Certificate or
certificate,
something
recognized certificate. Where are we at? That's,
Well, I wish I could speak to it in a lot more detail. If Micah was here, by the way, she had a death in the family and that's why she's not participating today. There's a funeral that she's helping with. But she would be able to answer a lot more clearly. But the answer is yes, we have students taking industry recognized exams and they're receiving certificates. For us, the most important thing is to set up our correct classes and our relationships with industry in such a way so that we can really expound on that. But I can't tell you numbers right now, but I will follow up and get that and send them out to you.
And that, on that light, Lee, don't let me hijack you here, but is there a system set up that we have that tracks our progress towards that?
Our progress towards students taking those
Yeah,
industry recognized.
towards either an associate degree or an industry recognized certificate.
Lance, can I chime in on that? Is that okay?
That'd be great, yeah.
So Micah and I have worked with the college and with our CTE teachers throughout the year to get all of the pathways developed for those certificate programs. So going into the summer, we have more than what we thought we would be able to get as we've met with the CTE teachers, the ones that are from the college, the ones that are at Carbon, to develop those pathways. So moving forward, starting next year, we'll be able to track which courses the students have taken towards the pathway, which ones they have left to take in order to get the certificate. So we will be able to track that data moving forward with those pathways built from start to finish, including the classes we have access to on our campus or on the college campus in order for the student to be able to accomplish those pathways.
Thank you, Chris. And our partnership with USU Eastern has really grown this year with this project, and they have been really helpful. They've even donated vouchers that they have for industry recognized exams, so the students don't have to fork out, $200 to take an exam, or I don't know how much it costs, but they have vouchers, and they said, no, you use these vouchers. If you have kids who are high school kids who are going to take this and get certified, they don't need to pay. So that's been, really cool as well.
Go ahead and share your experience, Lee.
Well, my grandson just got hired on at a place here in town hiring welders, and the gentleman there told him that they're still looking for close to 40 welders. And they can't find them.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many other jobs we have that way, but I just hate to see these kids miss an opportunity, if we're not, getting them what, and maybe there's not that many interested, but I'd really like to see if they are, that we can push in those fields that are asking for these.
Lee, didn't you tell me that, I think Hagen was concerned because it does involve some money.
Well, it did, and in his last one to be certified, we talked about that with him doing it, and ended up paying the $800, and we did it ourselves because, we're not doing that through the school, because they can only go to the last year, and the last year we're not paying for, but that's what gives them that certification. So I don't know how we get there in collaborating with the college
That's a
to have that happen, because those kids are having to, it's having to be paid out of their pocket.
That's future that we need to work. We can't achieve that goal without more collaboration with the college.
Right, and we've been having those conversations. The wheels turn a little bit slow at the university level, but we have willing partners in Gary Strackwoodine and others that want to make this work. And so I think we can get it done. We can get the cost down. All of those can be worked out.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah. By the way, Melissa just sent me a text that said we have 47 CTE pathway completers this year. I'm not sure in what area. He said 47.
Yeah. Right, and we've had that discussion, particularly about how our pathways line up with what industry is really wanting and the significance of getting a pathway certificate as opposed to, that's why we're very specific on industry recognized certificates there. And so the efforts to align our career pathway with industry requirements to get that. So that, it's an overwhelmingly huge job, but we need to be measuring and working towards it. We appreciate those efforts. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Do you think it would be a good time to have Rick Shaw, I hate to say that always, because it always makes me laugh. Mr. Shaw do an article for the newspaper about some of our kids who not only have completed up, but are getting jobs, and
Great.
just to make
It's a great
parents
idea.
aware, you know, of, hey, we're really out there doing this.
Always looking for ideas.
Well, and it might be
about
some industry that
what you're
has
doing.
something they want to come back with to us and say, what about?
And Lance, I wondered about, if it would be a good time if you, maybe could talk with, his wife. They own that beautiful gallery in Helper. Why can't I think of his name?
George.
The Jespersons?
The Jesperson. No, not the Jesperson. Their name is not Jesperson, but he's related to.
Well, I thought her name
Oh,
was still
here it
Jesperson.
is. She is a Jesperson. That's right. And
And,
Jesperson.
there you go.
And Roy. He is on the board of Intermountain Health Hospital. And I wondered if, you know, they have given money to some of our local kids, particularly helper kids. And I wondered if we could, maybe he would be an interesting one to have in that article, because they have given money, and maybe that would be a way to expand our nursing.
Roy and Ann Jesperson and Roy.
Roy.
Roy's not a Jesperson.
Oh, and, oh, I didn't write that correctly, so, okay.
Oh, wait a minute, I have.
She's a district.
All right, thanks, Lee. Jeff?
Well, I agree with the comment about the signs, other than Lori Oliver does not live in Huntington. She lives 3 miles before Huntington and a mile in. She's closer to Cleveland. She's off Airport Road, that's right.
There, I do have one out in the Westwood area that is the backyard of somebody. It is not the address, so we got to figure out.
The address is the
Yeah,
backyard.
yeah, somebody else. So we got the name and someone knows where she lives. So.
The other thing I was going to share was a couple of days ago, the superintendent sent his morning email out, I think it was on Monday, about the signs going out, had all of our pictures up, and it was pointed out to me that we don't look like those people
I thought the same thing.
anymore. It's been a rough few years.
The last 10 years, you put some age on us. What does this job do to you?
It ages you.
That's right.
But anyway,
If you're gonna take my picture, I need to start with the Grecian formula right now again.
yeah. But no, it's been a lot of fun doing the signs. Just people are great. And I've found I do addresses because of my work, and I found places I didn't know was existed.
That's all I could think was that third trip to Carbonville was Jeff would have got this done. Jeff would have got this done.
It's been fun to drive around
Just
town and say, I wonder who lives there.
Oh, you gotta see the signs when you see the signs out.
In our organization, just drive around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I'm some of the signs that I put up as I go by and look, I say, oh, good, they're still there. They haven't taken them down.
I was scared I'd put on the wrong house.
Yeah, that was got to be the right house. Okay. Well, thank you. Away we go here. Let's go to Carbon High School report.
Okay, you have a document in your board docs that they'll be using. I'll just ask Chris and the high school administration to go ahead and take it from here. This is a follow-up, by the way, to the request that the board made at the last board meeting.
And I'm going to default this one to Karen, who is with us, as she put a lot of legwork into going through student by student with her and Tawny Crow and Wes Thompson to look at each individual student to collect all this data. So I will let Karen kind of explain all the data to you and answer those direct questions.
And I am just so excited. I can't stand it. But you know, first, before I forget, thank you for the yard signs from me also. And thank Jeff for checking up on those other ones. I appreciate that. That was really nice of you. So can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. What we did is we went through we went back last year, took our enrollment and compared it to what was at Carbon High School, because I believe the request was for the students who came to Carbon, how did they perform this year? So after going through, there were 49 sophomores and juniors that should have come to Carbon that were enrolled last May. However, only 34 of them came. So that first section there is a breakdown of how many went to Pinnacle, Adult Ed, homeschool, moved out of the area, or there was 1 week dropped for non-attendance. As we were looking at this, we looked at each individual student, and one of those has a story. For example, one of our students who enrolled in homeschool enrolled right off the get-go. She was expecting a baby in December. We met with the Children's Justice Center, JJS, her probation officer, and we decided last May that in her best interest, it would be best for her to go to homeschool, or excuse me, Adult Ed. I'm sorry, one back up. Go to Adult Ed. So every one of these kids who did not come to Carbon, there was kind of a reason for it. 2 of the kids that enrolled in Pinnacle Canyon were 2 boys that wanted to play basketball. Because their homeschool shut down, closed, whatever you want to call it, that allowed them to play varsity at a new school. They took that option to play varsity at Pinnacle. They debated a long time. They wanted to come to Carbon, but they really wanted to play varsity basketball and were not sure if that was going to be possible. So the kids that didn't come really did have a story. All of them did. Of those 34, 14 of them were seniors. We have a 100% graduation rate on those 14 kids. 5 of them graduated early. We had 1 that graduated first quarter. The other 4 graduated in January at the semester break. The other 9 will be graduating with their class, so we have a 100% graduation rate on our seniors. I went through the grade point averages for every one of those 34 kids. 10 students increased their grade point average from what they had at Lighthouse last year. This is fourth quarter only. Keep that in mind. We had 5 kids who dropped 0.5, because your GPA is based on a 4-point scale. We had 10 that dropped less than 1, but more than 5. And we had 8 students whose grade point average change was greater than 1. So they would have gone similar to, if they had a 2.1 at Lighthouse and they dropped more than 1 and they ended up with a 1 point something, however that works out. So that was not bad. Most of them stayed right around. So 25 of them really did stay right around where they needed to be. We counted fourth quarter classes. 91% of them, 31 out of 34, were enrolled in 1 or more tier 3 classes. There were a handful that didn't have any, but they also didn't need it. So the low was 1 student had 1 class, the high, another student had 5 classes, more intensive intervention for the tier 3 classes. On average, it was an average of 2 per kid. And then the one thing that we talked about last year as the Lighthouse was moving over to Carbon was the ability for Carbon High School to offer more choices for the Lighthouse kids. So we went through, Tony and I went back through and actually counted the elective classes per student that we could not offer at Lighthouse. The average was these kids had 4 electives each. The 9 was high. We did note, and we wanted you to put this in here, we had 34 kids. We had kids in AP Biology, the Agricultural Leadership, English 10, the CTE internship, the GMA Welding, you guys were talking about a little bit earlier, Diesel Mechanics, Japanese, AP US Government and Politics, and Cosmetology. Now, some of those, the cosmetology, the welding, we could have done that at Lighthouse. but the others we could not. And this is just sampling anything from Mr. Chili, anything from Troy Chilcott, Daphne, any of the music, any of the art, we counted all of that because none of that was classes we were able to offer. So we were quite impressed that every single one of those kids had quantities of these extracurricular classes that they could not have taken had they been still at the Lighthouse. 10 of the 34 had active IEPs that were addressed and they received their services. We had 16 kids that had attendance issues. We went through the attendance and Lighthouse attendance from last year. All those, 3 of them had attendance issues at Carbon this year, but did not have attendance issues at Lighthouse last year. But we had 4 with attendance problems at Lighthouse that did not have attendance problems at Carbon. But those attendance problems at Carbon, then at the Lighthouse, and then back at Carbon again, there were 9. So we feel that attendance was affected much at all on that. So after looking through every single kid, Tanya and I sat down. We identified 5 that may have, and I'm clarifying, may have done better if they had stayed at the Lighthouse. On the flip side, though, that's just 5 that we identified. We were able to help so many more because we were at Carbon High. So I went back to Mrs. Hunt as our counselor. She did keep track of all Lighthouse students this year as they returned to Carbon. Any questions that they had, they went back to Mrs. Hunt because she was familiar to them. She also was the unofficial counselor to the entire 9th grade class. She met with all the 9th graders 4 times during the year, including getting them registered for 10th grade. Plus, she took on the super struggling students. So she counted for me. You've got the 18, the 16, 26, and 25. Those are students that she helped in addition to the Lighthouse, 34 Lighthouse kids and the 9th graders. And this is, again, we could not have been able to do this without being at Carbon. Mr. Thompson, he had 2 of the Tier 3 intervention classes. He taught Modern Math and Dino Academy. You can see the ratio there. He had 43 students, but only 40% were previous Lighthouse students. Only 20% of his Dino Academy were previous Lighthouse students. So he was affecting, through these Tier 3 math classes, a whole lot more than just our kids, Lighthouse kids. And then as the debate coach, he was able to have an influence on 21 more kids. And then he made me giggle. He sent me their statistics because they did really well. 2nd place in region, 2 placed 2nd in state tournament, and 1 could have competed at the national tournament this June had there not been this whole thing going on. All of Mr. Hicks's class were Tier 3 classes. His numbers are there also. He had few Lighthouse students, but his classes were big. In Dino Academy, he had 91 kids. I think he had 5 sections, 4 or 5 sections. And he did have previous Lighthouse students in that bunch, but he had 93% Carbon students just in his Dino Academy. The way we set up Dino Academy is he was meeting with them daily, conferencing with them weekly, doing all those things that you would do as a Lighthouse teacher, only he's now doing it with 19, 71, and 28 students. His biology class, we ran it as a Tier 3 biology class. He had a couple of those with 71 students that he was able to help. Mrs. Wilson had a Tier 3 reading class. She had 18 students, only 3 of them were previous Lighthouse students. She had 2 sections, and she also took on in her classes a couple of our self-contained kids and was able to help them with some reading skills as well. She was using the really great reading program that we adopted a couple years ago and was using that in her classroom with the layered, that's not called layered, the reading, you know, up as you get better. Can't think of what it's called. But
Levels?
Yes, thank you. Leveled reading, that one.
Good job, dear.
You know what I'm
I watched the
you know what
library.
I'm talking about. The other thing that Mrs. Wilson did is she taught history and language arts. She had 2 classes English 11, 3 English 11, 2 English 12, a U.S. history class in addition to her 2 reading classes. But she taught all of them as if she were teaching at the Lighthouse. So I feel very comfortable saying that what she did in those classes that she taught all day, every day, week after week, were getting the same teaching methods, the same concern, the same attention that they would have gotten if they would have been picked up and moved to the Lighthouse. I just know Colleen, that's just how she teaches. So this one was a really big one that we were like shocked. Mandy Briner came over. She was our attendance secretary, and she worked with our kids who needed more one-on-one because they would sit in the office with her at the Lighthouse. And then Brianna Manning did the A+ credit recovery at Carbon High. Counting fourth quarter, the 2 of them had 180 students enrolled. Those 180 students were enrolled in 435 courses. Some had 1, some had 2, some had 3. They were a variety. 12% were Lighthouse students, which is 23 of them, which was pretty good. We were servicing, getting the services to our Lighthouse students as well. But between Mandy and Brianna, 88% of those courses were completed during dismissal. That's a lot of courses those kids completed, and that is a whole lot more than we could have done alone. Had the students moved to the Lighthouse for credit recovery, the numbers would not look like that. And that's fourth quarter only. They worked very, very hard all year long. The last aide, Mrs. Ivory, she was our math intervention aide at the Lighthouse. She did the small group, the individual mentoring, the whole 9 yards with math. This year, she was able to work with 4 math teachers. She was assigned 62 individual students to work with. 24 of them were Lighthouse kids, 38 were not. And then in addition to that, Mrs. Ivory also did any instruction that we needed with Edgenuity and math. The students were assigned to Mrs. Ivory as well, and she took on that. During dismissal, she was meeting with individual students. She had 4 that she was tutoring in math almost every day during dismissal in order to get them through the credit recovery they needed there. And that's all the numbers, all the data and the numbers. And so I just threw in a couple of things there at the end. Mr. T was voted as the Teacher of the Year by the faculty at Carbon High School. I think that speaks volumes to see the value that he had. And then the other thing was, we just wanted to mention that we didn't know what this would look like. We really didn't. My heart and soul is in kids at risk. That's what I've done my whole career. And we didn't know how this was going to work out. But looking back on it, I gotta say, the numbers speak for themselves. We were able to help more on a tier 3 level. We were able to provide intervention, assistance, tutoring, mentoring, whatever, to more kids by being at Carbon than we could have done this year had we stayed separate at the Lighthouse. The end.
I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm done. That's it. No,
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for that work. That's along the lines of exactly what we're wanting to track and know. So thank you.
well, I hope that's what you wanted, because when we were finished, I turned to Tanya and I said, this looks good. It really does. We did not know what to expect, but this looks good.
All righty. We'll continue those efforts. We still don't want to. It's good to see that the processes that were involved in the Lighthouse are continuing so that those that would have gone or needed that type of intervention can receive it at Carbon. So thank you. That was our intent.
We have to do it again next year?
We may have you do it every month.
Oh no, once a year's good. I'm good.
You can alternate with Tanya.
Yeah.
she's probably listening, so, because she's been watching on YouTube. So if she didn't hear that, I will let her know.
Yeah, let her know. Next month, we'll expect her to be. Thanks, thank you. Okay, let's move on to our action items, specifically starting with policy 535, student conduct / e-cigarettes, tobacco, and alcohol. Anybody have that one?
So we
Jump
have-
right up, Robert.
We have went through and made all the adjustments that you asked to be made last time. Would ask the board that they pass this as a second reading.
And I like the way it reads. I had one question.
Well, of
It's
course.
like, why would we say that? So tell me why we would say that. I gotta find it now. Oh, so it's right, where the page break is at 1 of 6, just below that. So it's section 535.4. There it is.
This one?
That's not the one that I've got here.
Sorry, 535.4,
Right,
the new 4 or the old 4?
the old 4. No, there.
Oh, I think this is it right here, isn't it? Well, that's 1 of 6. You said after.
Yeah, no, but it's right below that. How come mine doesn't look like yours? Oh, there it is. Yeah, no, you got it right there.
So it is that.
Yeah, see where it starts out, compliance?
Uh-huh.
Compliance with this policy
Should be mandatory.
I think it shall be or must be or is.
Or we take that part out and
More
just
of
say a student. can
More of a
violate.
guideline.
Yeah.
More of a
10
guideline.
suggestions. I read that and I read it again.
Can we just put like,
How about compliance with this policy is mandatory?
Yeah.
It is
Does the
mandatory.
policy need to state that a policy needs?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
or take it out.
Yeah, let's
Or
take
take out that
that.
first
Yeah,
part.
let's take that out. I like
We took that whole thing out and said a student who violates the terms of this policy.
I like Robert.
Thank you.
there we go.
Okay, anything else?
Melanie, are you with us on that?
Yes,
Okay.
I like,
Okay. Good catch, by the way. Good catch. Any further discussion? Then is there a motion to approve policy 535, student conduct? Where is it? Again, the whole
I
thing.
move to approve.
Student conduct, tobacco, alcohol.
Policy 535, student conduct, tobacco, alcohol, with the change that Jeff made.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? As a second reading.
Just
As a second reading.
clarification.
As a second
reading.
As a second final.
Second and final.
And I would just point out that the name will now change because it's not just tobacco and alcohol. It's
Right.
tobacco, alcohol, electronic
Electronic
cigarettes.
cigarettes.
Okay.
So that'll be the new name.
Okay, thank you. So, are you with us, Melanie?
yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I heard all ayes. Okay. All right. Back to meetings.
Okay, this one is still in the active folder. It's not a draft yet. We wanted to simply talk with you so we get a little direction on how to make the draft. We know that it needs to be adjusted because of school fees. The thing that we're concerned about is the scenario where a history fair state champion gets invited to the national competition. First of all, none of that cost is in our fee schedule. So So it wouldn't be fair of us to ask a student, even if they could pay it, to pay for that. So we either need to put something in our fee schedule that would say, if you go to a national competition, this is what your fees would be.
Yes.
Or we need to do something that says, you know, if you are going to go to the nationals, more power to you. You're on your own. We only support state level. A lot of districts are really leaning that way, because if it is a fee waiver student, it doesn't matter what you have in your fee schedule, you're paying for the whole thing. So
Good catch, good catch.
it's a big concern. If you guys would kind of indicate where you'd like, what direction you'd like us to go, we'll develop a draft. And
Well, get some more definitive feedback from other superintendents across where they're going with that. But that certainly sounds like an unfortunate side effect that may be coming from this. Although we were only at what, 370, how much were we?
We went to 400.
400, yeah.
But we could address it just in the language that said, if a student is invited and accepts the invitation, the cost is theirs, up to, after the $400 that we will support. It's not mandatory they go to even state or national
So that would
competitions.
still allow us to give them the $400.
right. So we would like to give them the 400, but we don't want to be left holding the bag for the
Right.
rest of the
Right,
Right.
if it's up to.
Just
and then they can
figure
do-
that out.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be better.
I think we put in the wording though, student can do approved fundraising, things like that,
Okay.
but is not subject to fee waiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of the move of most districts, but I'll get a little more information on what the other districts are doing, and we'll come back with a draft that will line up with what you're saying.
We'll have to look at, because I think in the policy, we talk about individual fundraising, so it would have to be, I don't know how that contradicts what we already have.
Well, they'd still have to follow that same,
Right, but you're right, Melanie, we'd have to make sure we
yeah.
dovetail into what
Yeah.
we've already
We'll
approved.
need to reference the other policy that talks about individual fundraisers and make sure that it's the same.
Correct.
Yeah, I like the idea of us still supporting to a certain amount, and then because I would hate for us to say, no, we're not traveling at all. That would take so many opportunities away for kids. I wouldn't like that at all.
No, we, not only is there the educational component of the experiences that they're having, but these are lifetime that will forever be tied to their experience at Carbon High School.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like the idea that Jeff first started, and we've all, including Melanie, supported is we can figure out how to give them that $400, but then say, this is not a fee, this is not a part of the contemplation of participating with the Carbon School District, something of that nature.
Okay.
However,
I think we can do
that
that.
legally can be
It'll,
done.
I think that'll be good.
Do we still have a foundation?
It's not been active,
I was gonna say, I don't think we've had one going for
not since I,
12 years or so.
in
that I
fact,
remember.
my office on the board of the original foundation, and so it's not been active in my time here.
I was a foundation president for about 3 or 4 years.
You know, what I am a terrible fundraiser. I
was
hate
too.
to ask people for money, but as I watched all these online things, our students really, for a small rural district, they have won so many state and national awards. I mean, huge. I mean, they've performed at places, they've done all these things. And I wonder if our foundation, because it couldn't be our board, I don't know how active, but I thought if they could do a little short video or something, I wonder if we send it to alumni groups, just what we
We need a
might come up
development
with.
director. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I think a lot of people, you know, I know so many kids that have gone and really have lucrative careers and are very successful. And if they saw something like that, they just might want to support the kids in this small town.
I'm sure that
You know,
the foundations, those are run by a board separate than
Right.
the school district, and it really falls on the community to head those up and somebody to take charge of it.
you know, I don't know if we've rode this pony hard enough here. I don't know, we ought to find out if ever in the history of the Utah State Supreme Court, have there ever been two sitting justices at the same time from the same high school?
I mean, there's so many great things we could put on there, and I really think that there's a page, sponsored page now, it's called Growing Up in Carbon County, isn't it?
Mhm.
And you cannot believe the following on there. And even if we could link it to some, I think there are a lot of people who really,
Yeah, if you
There are
come up with someone who
companies-
could be the director of that foundation, think on that, board members.
There-
Think on who might be the ideal person to put at the head of that foundation and start that back up again.
because if our focus was to reinvest, the idea to me would be, if we could reinvest in our kids, if these people would reinvest their success in Carbon Kids.
The exact story that higher ed uses
Yeah.
over and
I,
over
I
again.
mean, really, I think we could have some really great things that kids might not be able to do if we, you know, they would be able to do it if these people would. Okay, so I think we should think of somebody.
Well, let's think on it for the next time. We'll get hold of each other.
Who, you know,
I agree. That's.
Gary Thompson used to be that, well, he has a huge following on, you know, a Carbon County following. And he was a district planner like in Denver or something. He might, you know, he was a city planner. He might be a great person.
Who was that?
His name is Gary Thompson.
Homesick?
Let's put that on for a work meeting next month, to brainstorm these names.
And Paige and Dina would be great on board of directors. If they do it.
They're generally not cheering what you do right now.
Yeah. Okay, policy 246.
This one is coming from Micah. She has found that in her work with Title I in particular, we don't have a policy that is required of us to have, which outlines these details that are specific to federal funding.
All the Title I audits we've ever had, and they haven't come up with.
There was a review earlier this year,
Oh,
and the
okay.
findings were, the practice was good,
Where's your
but they're
policy?
now requiring it be in writing. And so I don't know if that's a new requirement, but,
Well, they did exactly what this policy says with another different part of the state agency. They got a court case against them by the federal government because they took the federal money and they supplanted the state money instead of supplemented it.
yeah, and they always check that in the audits.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, well, you're doing great with it, you're not supplanting, but you need a policy that says you
Yeah.
can supplant.
I'm sure
And
that's
so, they
one
provided us
follows the
to, connected us with some districts that had some wording that they felt matched what they wanted to see. And as a result, she's taken that language from their policies and put it in place for.
And then Darren and I went through and made some adjustments so that it reflects how we do business here in this district. So we've gone through it a few times. We like it. It has everything that's needed, and it's specific to our district as well at the same time. So
Jeff, you're the one with.
Yeah, I
expertise
read
here.
through it and I was wondering why there was no changes to it.
My only
Because I thought we already had it.
My question on it was when it talks about, who's going to review the documentation, it says district level. Will that just be who's over a certain position? I mean, there's no,
That'd be your Title I director.
it doesn't say who.
Whoever's over Title I.
Yeah.
Okay, because it doesn't specify who that is. It just,
We also feel like this policy is not a Title I policy. This is federal money. So that also applies to special ed. And so we were careful not to call it a Title I policy because it does apply to any federal money that we're receiving. So that this policy, in that case, district would be special ed director.
okay, that's,
So it just kind of depends on which funding source.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Any questions, Melanie?
No.
That's kind of how I feel about it. All right.
So does anybody have any heartburn if we just pass this as it is?
That's where I was going. Yep.
Okay, I'll move that we approve this as a second and final reading. Policy 246, revenue and budgeting for federal funds.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? With none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. All right.
I do have a question on our new hires.
Okay.
We didn't do all of this.
We did not do it back there. Oh, never mind. I opened it twice.
Which line?
Let me
Yeah.
pull it up here.
That one? Highlighted? Or that one?
Next one.
Yeah, that one highlighted.
Okay.
This one now?
Yeah,
Okay.
do we need, I just have a question about it. If we
Okay.
need to ask about it.
Okay.
Okay, let's pull the new hires off of the consent agenda. Pending question.
And then we'll go back into closed session and ask the question and come back
Well,
and approve
we
it.
might as
or-
well just go back into
Yeah,
closed
just
session
do it.
That was
right
my,
now.
that's where my question was going.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
we're gonna be gone a total of 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a real
Yep.
simple.
No, it'll be 10 minutes because we got to get Melanie back on.
Yep.
Oh,
Start that link, Darren, or Lance, Superintendent, can you send her a link?
Same one.
Yeah, if you both can just get on.
Yeah, the link works quicker if you do it out there. Once you go into the back, the internet isn't very good.
so do it here. And we'll tell you goodbye.
No, we've got that thing. So we need to go in the
This one's
back.
still running.
Yeah.
So what we'll do here is we'll mute it and block the video. We'll go back and do closed session like we just barely did.
Okay.
Oh, but stay here?
No. I
Oh,
think
going
we'll have
back.
to-
Yeah, okay. But she's still on. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to move into closed meeting for the discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual? I've said it, so you don't have to repeat it.
Yeah,
So moved.
so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second. It's been moved and second. Roll call vote. Melanie?
Aye.
Kristen, aye.
Aye.
We'll be right back.
Okay, we have to come back.
Yeah, we're coming back.
Melanie, are you still there on this one?
Yeah, I am.
Wayne's just trying to call you on the phone because this is going to be like
Oh.
super fast.
Okay. I'll go look on my phone.
Okay, great, thanks.
take all of your shelves and books out of the library.
After she did all that.
You said you take a picture because you're putting them right back where you found.
Yeah, it didn't happen that way.
I didn't even think too much about it. I just heard Keith whining about it. About having to move books. I didn't realize.
Thousands of books.
Okay. All right. We are back in from our closed session. Item on the agenda under consideration is the consent agenda. Any further questions on the consent agenda? With none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
That we approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any, well, that's unanimous. Okay. All right. One thing before we adjourn, back to the bond and the money. When are we going to have the final drawings and everything from the architects?
We met with them today on Helper, and we're really close. It seems like every time we meet, there's something else that has to be, adjusted and changed, but final drawings, do you have any?
There won't be a time that they hand them all over at one time. That it's been in phases, and so like what's going out first for Carbon High will be foundation and steel work. There'll be drawings for those that go out at that time. Then they'll begin working on continue working on the finish. So they'll come in stages. I don't know when the final.
Okay.
Drawn out.
Then here's the question I've got then with that. When can we see this is the anticipated work that's going to be done at all three locations?
So we can see that now.
Okay, so
Where do we see that now?
Yeah, where do we
So-
see that now?
I made that website and sent it to you.
Right.
We're hoping that we can continue to update that every time we have. So like when the helper thing, gets changed now based on the meeting, then once we have that, then I want to put it up on that website so that it's there and you can see it anytime. And
Well, and that's more with, okay, here's the development process. Where do we sit? Okay, here's the development process. Where's the, okay, so what do we anticipate happening in the cafeteria at Helper, the art building, or?
Yeah, those I can say the date because that isn't the pressing item for, right now the pressing item for Helper is the mechanical and electrical as well as the structural. Those are well underway. Those will be bid first. And today's meeting was a lot about the layouts of those rooms and how they would be, but as far as the final drawing.
I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah,
Is what's it
we're
going to
looking
look
at
like?
that process.
Is
Yeah.
it, are we going to be able to have the lunchroom? Are we going to be able to have, are those things all part
The
of,
student common there.
is the money lasting to do that? I mean, where are we going to be with?
That's part of the plan. That's part of what we've advertised. The very first week, we anticipate. We've never questioned that those things would be done.
Well, we just,
We don't trust the
we're
contractor.
just saying money, you never
We
know
don't-
when you get a
yeah,
bid.
it's
what
the
your bid's
architect
gonna
and
be,
And the
Until those bids,
costs.
yeah, there's always question mark, but yeah, we don't anticipate. So they want to determine if there will be any movement on walls or things like that on the inside, so they can discuss the structural.
Mhm.
But the final details of how things will be placed probably won't be drawn up. But the rough room placements and those types of things are being discussed now.
so one of the things that, let me open this one up. This is not
Okay.
a very good drawing. They're working on a much better one. But one of the things that the board has continued to emphasize with us, and we're trying to make sure is top priority also, along with the structural and everything. I mean, that's all got to be done, but when it comes to the lunchroom library is going to look like, we are more and more seeing from the contractor and everybody that if we were to open this media center and put like half walls like we were talking, so that there's more visibility and everything, they said that it's going to take some structural support underneath to compensate for that, and there's a huge price tag to that.
So this is upstairs.
That's
looking at.
upstairs.
Okay.
So with some reimagining and in working with the Helper Middle School staff, they came up with this other idea.
And actually, let me throw out, Rob had brought this idea long before. This idea isn't a result of, but it makes sense in terms of cost and in terms of what the school would like to see.
So this drawing isn't very good, and it's not terribly accurate.
Wide open there where the library goes, where the office is.
Yeah, so the idea is that this becomes a student commons area. This isn't necessarily the main entrance anymore. The main entrance is over here, which is nice for events, because now you're just coming straight through into the gym. This is the office, and then the idea would be that, see, these are mislabeled. This was just a brainstorming session, but that would stay the same. That would stay science. And right now we're thinking that right up above the office would be band. And
let's put the band above the office.
Yeah, that'd be great.
definitely better there than next to one of the
And are
classes.
you still planning to cut those walls down so that you see all
Well,
that?
it looks like they're taking them
Right here.
In the bottoms, in the downstairs instead of the
Today's
upstairs.
discussion talked about structural impacts of how much wall can be removed and keep the seismic qualities that it has. And so that dealt with how much they'd be open. And you see in that existing entry, this drawing put in a ramp there. And what they're looking at now is having that just all open. There might be stairs on the outside, but that would be a great student space that could be captured. It could still be an entrance and exit during, morning and afternoons, but during the school day, it's just a congregating space for students. We really like that idea.
But
So
that,
what will go where the library is upstairs?
So then
couple
there's
classrooms,
placement of
yeah.
2 classrooms.
So then there'd be, right here's the library. These would be 2 classrooms. They would just, separate them. So again, the emphasis that we're trying to honor is that student space and openness is the concept we're trying to really
And
nail.
you've moved the science room upstairs.
Well, on this drawing, but
But it doesn't have.
now,
He thinks he's gonna leave the science where it's at.
Science
the
will
band
stay.
where the science.
the issue with science is the sinks. Once we started thinking about, we're not gonna put a bunch of sinks right up above when there's not sinks there. So they said it would be so much better and cost effective to soundproof the top of the office and not put sinks up there, just put the band. So that seems like where we're gonna end up doing that.
Now, a couple of questions then I have on this. Those hopes that we had concerning the gym with spectator seating and viewing capabilities, any of that in there?
That is miserable in there.
Right now, that wasn't one of the things that we had listed on what we communicated with everybody about the bond.
We've talked about looking to mount retractable baskets. That was one thing. we
It's
talked
the
about.
seating though. Have you sat on those seats?
Oh,
They
totally
were
agree.
horrible.
Yeah.
Well, keep that in your mind. I know that wasn't on the proposal when we went around to the public and in the pamphlet that we handed out. But boy, that's something that should be.
Yeah, and in fact,
considered.
that was one of the things when we were debating between the amounts that I have pointed out that nothing in this bond is addressing the auditorium at the high school or the gym at the middle school. When there was a petition for the 40 million, we were looking for some extra to address some of those things.
Well, if we can.
And we still might be able to.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really
we'll keep
important.
that on
And
our,
also, I'd like to see, you know, it's really important that the outside look updated. And it would be really nice if we could get some drawings of that.
Some what?
Some, you know,
Yeah, we talked about
design.
outdating, or updating, not outdating, updating the designs of the outside of the building looked.
Yeah, there was, in the bond, there was discussion about repainting it. That's what we.
But it needs a little more than repaint.
well, one
And that
of
was
We
part
don't
of
want
it,
to just put lipstick on it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the bus
That's
lane,
something I talked
when
about
will
from
the
the very
bus
beginning.
lane?
Yep, that's part
Bus
of
lane
it.
is part of
That's part of it.
And is that part of capital outlay or is that part of the bond?
That's part of the bond.
Okay.
Next board meeting is the 17th, then, third Wednesday. Okay, next board meeting is the 17th.
We do anticipate having, just so everybody knows, negotiations on the 27th, regardless of whether we have great numbers or not
So
from the
the
state.
next time, the next meeting here for us is the
17th, well,
Looks like mine.
17th of,
All the colors.
oh, for the negotiation.
Trying to come up.
well, the
knew
next
exactly
one
what
would
that
be
was.
the
Friday.
27th.
Yep,
I knew it.
the
Looks like
22nd
mine.
at what time?
8 o'clock.
That's everybody who got assigned, at least from the routes I took.
I have mine all
I need
marked
to,
off.
I need to give the rest of
want it
mine
back?
to Jeff. It's the
So it's the
Miller Creek.
third.
But I did everybody and I spoke with Heather and she gave me some additional names and then she took some names
Oh,
of people that were in the wrong areas, but I just,
Yes, I thought about picking up Lee on my way around the Coal Creek Loop. I said, Lee, come help.
did you do some on Coal Creek?
Well, some needs to be done.
On Coal Creek?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, they're all over the place.
Well, give me Coal Creek, that's nothing. I live there.
Well, I'm gonna pick up Lee, because then I don't have to look and the GPS stops in the middle of the field and I go, oh, shoot, now where?
I went to Lower Miller Creek. I had never been down there ever.
Really?
I've got one in Lower Miller Creek.
well, I have never been to Columbia.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
That's a nice
Robert
place.
and I
though.
went
I
there
like Columbia.
I did.
twice because we're like, okay, we're done here. We go back, find the last one on our,
Columbia.
so we're back.
That's where.
Columbia reminds me of
Remind you of what?
Kenilworth. They both.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Kenilworth.
that's another eclectic community out there that's staying nice and updated and doing great things. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second, we're done.
We're done, yeah.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Bye.